Hey everyone, welcome to our live conversation on the topic of how might your business connect people like your grandmother's food. A question that Minou has come up with. Writing with for Taste the Shift, which is about, yeah, experiencing what regeneration actually means. Hi, Jamie.
Hey there.
Um, and yes, and we want to make this topic of regeneration more tangible, more experiential, and explore throughout the conversation how we can actually, invite this into our life and into our business. Um, so let's invite Minou also to join. So it's going to be the three of us leading this beautiful conversation. How are you, Jamie?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. It's lovely and sunny today, so I can't complain.
You're sitting on a hill, I heard. Where?
Yes, so obviously I'm in Guernsey, so in the Channel Islands, so it's like a little island between France and the UK, if you don't know where that is. And yeah, I'm on the top of a hill, so I can get signal to do this live with you guys today. But I'm surrounded by wildflowers, and the ocean is just behind me, so it's pretty beautiful way to start my day. We're beautiful people.
And I see Minou is also there. Well, we see her plants. We see her plants and her garden.
I don't know if this is the message of the universe, but I can't actually get it to flip. My phone just wants to look at flowers, I
You need to
guess.
find a
I,
mirror.
I
It's a
need to
beautiful
find a
garden there.
mirror. I will find a. I don't know if there's a mirror here. This is actually not my garden. I'll just. I don't know what to do now.
Do you see the little two arrows?
Yeah, they don't function.
Maybe
Ah, okay.
do
Maybe
you
turn your phone
turn it
around.
round. You can
Yeah.
you can uh,
And
you can still hear
we
us.
tell you if you look good. Yes, there you
There we
go.
go.
This is perfect. This is
It's
perfect.
exactly funny. I'm just looking at a picture at the back of my screen now, with me being like 3 years old, so on the back of my phone. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Where were we?
No, I was just starting to introduce Taste the Shift, the
Mhm.
conversations that we've started to host on LinkedIn and also here, um, as we are trying to kind of yeah make regeneration more experiential, and imagine what it would actually look like to involve regeneration more into our lives and into our
Mhm.
business. And you came up with a beautiful question, Minou. Um,
Yeah, there is this question that, like, I can't really let go, and I think it's because it's a beautiful combination between caring about multiple generations, a deep kind of compassion and type of relationships that we've seemed to have lost a bit, and also just the wisdom of food. And the question is, how can your business unite people like your grandmother's food? And of course, it doesn't have to be grandmother's food for everybody. For some people, it might be their mothers, their dads, sisters, caretakers, maybe the neighbor. But there's often that one person in our lives that can just sort of organize a meal and get people together in a way that is just magical and that really binds. So for me, that is what my grandmother's food did. Um, my extended family isn't very tight. We didn't have the best relationships because we've moved around and all of that. But my grandmother's cooking did manage to get people together. And my grandmother's birthday always did manage to get people to get together and to have good times together, to share stories and to dine and to enjoy, yeah, the qualities of life and enjoy family time and all of that. So that sparked my thinking, like, yeah, how if businesses could unite people like that, like meals. cooked by our grandmothers, our nanas, our dads, our moms, our neighbors. So yeah, what does that question spark in you?
And this might be a really good moment to also invite everyone who's joining or watching the recording to kind of tune in and remember this feeling of when you sit together in a family or with friends on a table, what type of conversations were coming up, how did food in a way manage to connect us.
Yeah.
It's nice. I'm glad you extended it beyond just grandmothers too, because it's made me think of new things even before I read the question earlier, which I think is quite interesting to come into. And I was a little bit not apprehensive about the question because I understood it, but I'm somebody who didn't really grow up knowing my grandparents. So thinking about food, I can remember distant memories of being really small around food, but maybe I was too young. But actually, food is something that brings, loads of people together. And I've just got maybe one example we could like kick things off with. But I used to spend a lot of time on this little island called Herm, and it had this big campsite, but obviously you just had kind of the bare essentials for cooking. So you kind of had fires and barbecues, like coal barbecues or log kind of burner, steamery, smoky things. And we used to do this thing on the last day of the season where everybody on the campsite would produce a dish and then you would bring it to the center. And it was amazing because you would have people like me as a kid who was into fishing and swimming and catching things like lobsters and crabs. So you would have like all of this, like what we would deem, I think, quite fancy food, but it's all been kind of caught by the kids, which has been quite fun. And then you would get people bringing in their influences and their kind of mixed cuisine, and it was like a really strong memory. And if I think about my childhood, those memories of each summer kind of ending the season with these kind of communal meals are like the first things that pop into my mind. So yeah, so food is a really powerful catalyst for community.
Mm.
It's beautiful that you're mentioning everybody bringing their own, as it's also, of course, where potlucks come from.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it potlucks now, but the word comes from potluckus, which was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's the indigenous people of what now is North America, as ways to bring, and it's sort of a gifting society, ways to co-create meals, and by just gifting to the community and gifting to the experience. And I love that element of gifting society.
Whoops, I think you've frozen me, no?
Think I enjoy where she was going with this though, like
Yeah.
talking about the gifting. Like that's something that as businesses we're not really built to think about. We think about things in a very consumerist way of, it's a product, we must buy and sell our goods. But actually that kind of gifting space is very different. You think about what you receive differently, and you're probably more likely
Mm.
to not take more than you need when when you're receiving something as a gift. If I think back to my memories back then, whilst maybe say a lobster is something that's like quite prized in like the culinary space, if there was only a couple, it would get shared. But if it was the opportunity for somebody to buy it, they might buy the whole thing, and it's a very different like dynamic. So Minou, I think we
Mm.
lost you, so I just jumped on top of where you were.
No, he's no, he's not. Actually, love where you're going with that, and it sounds so true. With the gifting society, which you've mentioned, like we've lost that in many parts of our society. We're actually mostly buying things for ourselves, and indeed, that gives this weird desire to own it all. Gifting is still strongest, I would say, in food. We still share. We share our food. You bring food to the neighbors. There's a tendency to bring things to people's homes. There's a tendency to bake and cook for others and share that. And there's something in food. There's something so fundamental about food that it actually really drives us
Mm.
to wanting
Well,
to share and care. And I think that is a tremendous opportunity to ripple through to other parts of life and
I wonder,
business.
I wonder if it's because we still see food as a gift, as in, it's a gift from nature. So you don't sell, if somebody gives you a gift at Christmas, it feels really wrong or your birthday to then sell the gift on, right? But I think with food, we've maybe still got a bit of that connection to this was a gift from nature, from the natural world, and therefore we feel like we should be able to gift it forwards. And maybe, we could think about that in the way that we approach business in general. If we're creating products, or services that require, resources from the natural world, which,
Yeah.
most things do, those things are a gift. We've just commoditized them. So
Yeah.
maybe if we start to understand all resources like we do as food as a gift from the environment, we would then choose to maybe gift it onwards rather than commercialize absolutely everything.
Yeah. It's also just I think it is a stronger feeling that we have with food straight away. Because we always talk about, of course, like the economic pie, like you can't actually make the pie bigger, so we have to like share it equally. And then when we're talking about jobs, for example, which is in a way you can see the salary of a company as a pie that needs to be shared. People will be very competitive. They will be very competitive to get the highest salary. But if it's an actual pie and you will be the one divided, then I think most people wouldn't end up giving the biggest piece to themselves because it sort of feels wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you do.
Mm.
Yeah.
But then with everything else in life, we do that. And then the question is why? And how can we learn from food? What is it in food that makes us better sharers?
Yeah, like
Mm.
when you're serving on a table, you would first, take each other's plate, usually, then take your own when you're serving wine,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just a natural thing, or maybe good manners, but it's definitely something to maybe include more into other parts for sure.
Mm. Yeah, that brings me to maybe another area which I mentioned in a post recently. I was trying to think about what is Taste the Shift, what are we doing? And it reminded me of a quote from a book that I love called Braiding Sweetgrass. And it talks about in the early chapters about ceremony, and it says, you know, the elders use ceremony as a way to remember how to remember, and that's also kind of the same thing as like rituals. And I think
Hmm.
we still have a lot of rituals inside food.
Hmm.
Even this morning, I'm grinding my coffee manually. Like that is a ritual. That's not that's a very basic one, but creating and crafting a dish is a ritual. And I
Hmm.
think rituals are very similar to ceremonies, and they force you to remember how to remember, and it makes you ask those deeper questions, where I think we've lost a lot of those rituals um, in other elements of our lives, or especially in the business space. So
Hmm.
maybe it's about bringing some of those rituals into ourselves as people or leaders inside businesses, but also obviously into the businesses themselves.
And the culture, right? Because around food is also culture, and I
Mm,
think in businesses, the traditional way or the current way of doing business is often the culture is, like we said, very competitive. That has just developed due to certain assumptions or constraints, and if we manage to kind of change that towards a bit more sharing and collective culture again, that will already do a lot of, make a big difference, I
yeah.
guess.
You can draw really big parallels inside food, say, and business with, how we talk about monoculture versus permaculture.
Hmm.
The lack of diversity, then needing all of these kind of synthetic supplements, and that's a lot of how I see a lot of businesses nowadays. Is we've become so compounded and we've become so good at business as usual that we've stripped out all of the ritual and the culture and the diversity, and without that, there is none of that magic that actually creates the engine. You just end with this stagnant silo that's very, very good at that little finite piece that we've kind of compounded business as usual to become. But then it's kind of lost all but everything else. Just like if you think of a monocropped field of just
Hmm.
corn, there is just corn in that field. There is nothing but corn. And that's what I see a lot with businesses, and the people that I work with are trying to revitalize some of that diversity, and yeah, bring more ritual. And I suppose, like you said, more of a gifts kind of mindset into the way that we build forwards.
Yeah. A gift mindset and just also more of, I would say, a fearless mindset. Like, we are so used to replicability. We're so used to always knowing what is coming, to always get expected outcomes. Um, so we are not allowing ourselves the gift of surprise. We're not allowing ourselves the gift of seeing what emerges when you let nature try, seeing what emerges when you create the conditions for a person in your organization to really flourish and not just force them to do what you want them to do. And I think maybe that's also the beauty of why food in families and food in communities that are strong in compassion and strong in caring is that we give each other the opportunity to be ourselves, and that might make those meals even better because they're safe spaces of exploration. And of course that's not the case for everybody, but food does have that potential to take that like to take the angle out
Mm.
and and make everything just a bit, I don't know.
Yeah. You kind of get that permission stamp to be creative with food, which people feel like they need. You know, to become creative, a lot of people feel like, oh, I need the permission to be a bit silly or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
And I think most people understand that with food. You know, the way that we talk about food, the culture of food is there is an element of creativity and culture is allowed, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but then we kind of start to strip that back in other elements, and you know, we see a lot of that loses its potency inside business. So I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like food is still a place where we feel like we've got the permission to, like you said, be
Yeah.
ourselves and act as you know, as beings and not just like
Yeah.
a consumer or a worker.
And to weave cultures together.
Mm.
Like, we all know fusion. There's so many, there's so many dishes in the Netherlands that are an absolute mix between everything. There's very little is untouched by other cultures. The other day in London, I went into this is the most basic meal I had in town during that trip because it was a Indian Italian fusion in a crystal shop. I absolutely love that. I would have never put those three together,
No.
but it worked. It
Share the link,
absolutely
please.
worked. That was really fun. And I even got it at the Too Good To Go, so it was a huge surprise because I just went to go pick up a Too Good To Go and then I walked into a crystal shop and it was Italian Indian fusion. I was like, what is this? But
But
it's amazing,
yeah.
and that it just
Mm,
food gave the opportunity to make that mix, to say, okay, we're gonna bring those worlds together.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
really beautiful. I love
Yeah.
the conversation. And yeah, want to continue with you guys. Definitely soon. Maybe it's a good point to mention that this is part of Taste the Shift, what we have started to develop, or the idea has about maybe a year ago. Um, we found each other basically, Minou, Jamie, and I, to um, through different regenerative communities, and as we're all active in the sector of food and food innovation and regeneration, we are coming together to engage in that field and to start a movement. Maybe sounds too big at this at this point, but we've put out an experience in June in Tuscany where we will explore all of these questions a bit further, and we'll actually be together physically, um, cook and actually eat and connect and really experience regeneration in all of these different levels. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for joining. We'll definitely continue. There will probably be a few more conversations, also more interactive sessions that we offer, and would love to, engage in conversation. Let us know your thoughts, your reflections on this topic, and to hear from you and what you think about all of this.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you, Anja. I can't wait. 6 more weeks, 7 more weeks or something, and then we'll be together in June in Tuscany on a regenerative farm with a good glass of wine and a plate of homemade pasta, discussing exactly what we just discussed and so much more. Because the amount of lessons that can be learned from foods and be applied to regenerative business is absolutely staggering.
I'm so
I hope.
excited, so excited too. I just can't wait to get to meet you both in person after such an amazing journey, getting to know each other, and also to meet the amazing people that have already signed up, and hopefully more to come. But yeah, it's going to be a great place to meet some amazing people, I think, as well as diving into food and regeneration.
Yeah,
All
perfect.
right. Enjoy your
Thank you.
day, everyone. Bye bye.
One last look at my plants. Bye
Ciao, ciao.
bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.